Stand-up comedy usually isn't a team sport, but when talented comedians get together and jam musically, it can be awesome. I'm Thom Tran, and this is Comedy on 11, my web show and podcast about music and comedy, and today we're listing some of my favorite musical comedy groups, or duos. Different from my earlier list of solo musical comedians, but similarly, this isn't a ranking, it's just a list based mostly on how much B-roll I could get from the internet. Let's go. First up, Da Vinci's Notebook, a super talented and very funny a cappella group from the DMV, Delaware, Maryland, and Virginia area, specifically Alexandria, Virginia. They formed in 1993 and for a little while were the artists in residence at the John F. Kennedy Center for Performing Arts, which makes them probably the most distinguished group on this list. They were regular guests on the syndicated radio show Bob and Tom, which is where I discovered them shortly before I deployed to Iraq in 2003. I had several of their MP3s with me downrange, so while other soldiers were rocking out to Slipknot and Rammstein, I was cleaning my gear to a cappella songs about Disneyland and Heather Graham. Next up, Garfunkel and Oates. Obviously a portmanteau of sorts combining the band names of Simon & Garfunkel and Hall & Oates, comedians Ricky Lindholm and Kate Micucci are super funny and wildly talented. The duo met at the Upright Citizens Brigade Improv Theater in Los Angeles and started writing and releasing songs together on their YouTube channel in 2007. The songs had sweet melodies, but raunchy lyrics with titles like The Worst Booty Call Ever and an album called All Over Your Face, which may have just gotten this video demonetized. They eventually got a TV show called Garfunkel and Oates on IFC, and they're still making music and doing TV, with Lindholm releasing an album as recently as late 2024. Next up, The Nasty Delicious. You may not have heard of this group, but you know their frontman, Mr. Craig Robinson, who showed up earlier on the list of great musical comics. This hilarious funk house band was featured on the NBC show The Office with Craig's character Daryl Philbin, as well as on Last Comic Standing and the soundtrack for Hot Tub Time Machine, also starring Robinson. The multi-piece band consists of Craig on vocals, along with bassist Ethan Farmer, drummer Ozza Watkins, guitarist David Sampson, saxophonist Lakeisha Benjamin, Reggie Hines, and trumpeter Winston Bird, percussionist Benji Alance, and Craig's younger brother and music director keyboardist Chris Rob Robinson. Every member of this band is a monster in their own right. These are not hacks. They've all toured or recorded with Stevie Wonder, Lionel Richie, John Legend, Lauryn Hill, Chaka Khan, Beyonce, Maroon 5, Alicia Keys, among others. And if you ever get a chance to catch The Nasty Delicious live, do not hesitate to get tickets. Also, here's a video of me jamming with Craig Robinson at the Laugh Factory in Hollywood. Next up, Flight of the Conchords. A favorite among my comedian friends, New Zealand comedy duo The Flight of the Conchords took over the world with their hilarious songs like Business Time and The Most Beautiful Girl in the Room. The Flight of the Conchords consists of multi-instrumentalist Brett McKenzie and Jermaine Clement. The latter you may also know from the film What We Do in the Shadows and its spin-off TV series, and like 1,000 other projects. The group formed in New Zealand in 1998, became a popular live music and comedy act in the early 2000s, and within 7 years had a hit BBC radio show and HBO series also called Flight of the Conchords. The most recent release from the band was a 2018 HBO special called Live in London that dropped at the same time as an album of the same name. Between making TV shows and movies, the duo still tours occasionally. Next up, The Lonely Island. Some people would say that The Lonely Island was a big reason that Saturday Night Live regained and retained its relevance in the early 2000s. Comedians, musicians, writers, and longtime friends Andy Samberg, Jorma Taccone, and Akiva Schaffer formed the group in 2001 and started creating, then posting their sketches and musical comedy songs online. That eventually got them recognized and hired to write on the 2005 MTV Video Music Awards, where host Jimmy Fallon recommended them to Saturday Night Live boss Lorne Michaels. All three of them were hired as writers at SNL, and Samberg was a featured player, and their sketches helped shift SNL's presence from the traditional broadcast model to the now dominant world of online media. They created some of the most viral SNL clips online, including I'm on a Boat, Dick in a Box, and I Just Had Sex featuring Akon. The group also released 3 studio albums and 2 soundtrack albums for the films Pop Star, Never Stop, Never Stoppin', and The Lonely Island Presents the Unauthorized Bash Brothers Experience, which the group wrote and produced. Next up, Monty Python. The British sketch troupe Monty Python is one of the OG musical comedy groups. The Pythons formed in 1969 with members Graham Chapman, John Cleese, Terry Gilliam, Eric Idle, Terry Jones, and Michael Palin. These comedy legends birthed the Monty Python's Flying Circus sketch show on the BBC and classic films like The Life of Brian, The Meaning of Life, and where I discovered them, Monty Python and the Holy Grail, all of which included hilarious and absurdist songs that helped the plots along. The group released nearly 20 albums and a Broadway musical adaptation of the Holy Grail called Spamalot, which went on to win multiple Tony Awards. The Pythons have been called the Beatles of comedy, influencing the early years of SNL and numerous other sketch comedy shows. My favorite Monty Python fact is that Monty Python member Eric Idle was the voice of Wreck-Gar in the 1986 animated Transformers the movie. Number 2, Tenacious D. If I had to describe Tenacious D, I would say they have the lyrical and musical theatrics of Led Zeppelin in the mid-70s if Robert Plant and Jimmy Page couldn't get laid. Funny and brilliant, but they are also not smashing. When you think of a group that has perfectly melded comedy, rock, music, and theatrics together, you think of Jack Black and Kyle Gass. The two actors formed the comedy rock duo in 1994 after meeting in an acting group in Los Angeles. The pair became friends with Dave Grohl and his band the Foo Fighters, and were opening for Weezer and Pearl Jam by the end of the 90s before they even released their first album with Epic Records in 2001 called Tenacious D. Their song Tribute and its accompanying music video helped them achieve cult status and added to their popularity around the world. The band's over-the-top live performances made them legendary in the music and comedy scenes. The pair starred in the 2003 film Tenacious D in the Pick of Destiny, which didn't do so well at the box office, but the tour was a success. They released 4 studio albums between 2001 and 2018 and won a Grammy for Best Metal Performance in 2014 for their cover of The Last in Line, a tribute to Ronnie James Dio. As of this recording, the group is on hiatus following a controversial statement that Kyle Gass made on stage during a concert in 2024, resulting in the cancellation of the rest of their tour. And number 1 on this list, Spinal Tap. The fake band that became a real band after a fake documentary about the fake band became a real success, and the inspiration for the name of this show and my podcast. This is Spinal Tap was the 1984 mockumentary about a British rock band trying to make a comeback with a big US tour. Co-written, directed, and starring Rob Reiner as the filmmaker and fan of the band, the legendary movie stars Christopher Guest, Michael McKean, and Harry Shearer. Endlessly rewatchable scenes like Stonehenge, getting lost in an arena trying to get to the stage, and These Amps Go to 11, which inspired the name of the show, help make this movie culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant, according to the U.S. Library of Congress, who selected This Is Spinal Tap for preservation in the U.S. National Film Registry in 2002. The not really that far from reality mockumentary has been lauded by fans, critics, and actual rock stars. Everyone from Kurt Cobain and Metallica to Ozzy Osbourne and Dee Snider have all said the movie pretty accurately showcases the hilarious ridiculousness of rock stardom. The fake band has released dozens of music videos for songs like Lick My Love Pump, Big Bottom, and The Majesty of Rock, which are all really good at comedically resembling the over-the-top lifestyle of rock stars in the 1970s and 80s. As of this recording, a sequel to This Is Spinal Tap is slated to be released sometime in 2025, reuniting the original cast and director and adding a lot of famous cameos, including Questlove, Paul McCartney, and my friend Brad Williams, who happens to be the first guest on my podcast, Comedy on 11, where he tells a pretty funny story about meeting Elton John while filming the movie, so go check that out. Corporate synergy, it's all connected. Here's a clip from that episode.
Cast is back. I cannot say what my role is, but if you've seen the original, not hard to figure out.
Yeah.
You can kind of put 2 and 2 together.
You can watch the entire episode here on YouTube or listen on your favorite podcatcher of choice, and I'll be dropping new episodes every week, talking to my stand-up comedy friends about music, along with more lists. That's it for this list of great comedy duos or groups. Did I miss your favorite? Let me know in the comments below. Remember to like the episode, subscribe to the channel, and share it with your friends, and follow me and the show on Instagram, Threads, or Facebook at _Thom Tran, THOMTRAN, or Comedy on 11 Pod. Don't forget my other show called The Story Behind the Strings, where I go in-depth into my guitar collection and give you all the nerdy gear goodness like specs and pricing, and the story, both historic and personal, about the guitars in my collection. Thanks again, and remember to turn the laughs up to 11.